Hello, 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 welcome back to my channel. I'm Samantha Winona. This is Winona Reads. I have to preface this by saying it is so pretty outside right now. It's been snowing for the last like 48 hours and it's pretty. It's consistent. It's sticking to, not the roads, but like sticking to the grass, sticking to the trees. So you wake up and it's just a thin layer of snow. It's so pretty. But I cannot stand how pale I get during the winter. Oh my god. Like trying to put on a cute outfit, I'm like, no, sweatshirts. This is the best we're getting because nothing looks good without a tan. This video is going to be my November wrap up. I realize that it is a full week into December and I still haven't wrapped up everything that I read in November, so I wanted to do that. I think it's 10 books, 9 or 10. I don't have all of them here. One of them I did donate almost immediately because I did not like it. And then I think one of them was an audiobook, but most of them are here, so let's get started. The first one that I finished in November was Beautiful Boy by David Sheff, which is now a major motion picture. It has Steve Carell, Timothée Chalamet, and it was, I have to say, the book was definitely much better than the movie, which is my usual feeling, I feel like, when it comes to movie adaptations. But this was a story about a troubled youth named Nick. Well, I say troubled. He had a sort of normal upbringing until he became addicted to meth. His parents were divorced. He was from, you know, a split family. His dad remarried, had kids of his own, and his mom and dad lived in separate states. So he did have to take a plane from, like, during the summer from one to the other to spend time with his family. And he comes back from a trip. I think he had like an internship in Paris, and he comes back and is just sketchy. He, you know, can't sit still. He's starting to have just deviant behavior, and then come to find out he's been using, and he's in and out of rehabs. I at first didn't really vibe with the writing because it felt very surface level as far as like a dad's point of view. I just thought there would be more emotion going into how intense it was, but as I made my way through the story, I feel like it was completely necessary. The way that he wrote it, he did definitely get emotional at times. There were parts that made me tear up. However, his writing style wasn't like overly emotional, and I think that was necessary in, you know, going into depth about how serious the addiction was. And the thing that I think got me in a couple of parts was just the parental guilt of, is this something that I created? Is this a broken piece that, you know, from splitting up with his mother or something else? And I just thought it was really well done. It was very moving, and I don't think the movie did it justice. I think a lot of stuff got left out, which is usually the case. I know that they can't fit everything into a movie, but I feel like there were major gaps. Like, you just kind of had to assume what was going on at first in the movie. It wasn't very forward. But again, I loved this. I gave it, let me see, I feel like I haven't done this in a while. I gave it 4 stars. And yeah, I said I couldn't put it down, which is true. So highly recommend. And I also do love the movie cover of this. Usually I don't like the adaptation covers, but I liked this one a lot better than the original. After that was Christmas at the Ranch by Anita Hughes. I gave that one 2 stars. That was the one that I donated almost immediately. That one was about a writer named Samantha who goes to a retreat in a different state. She has like irrational fears, and it takes her a lot to get on the plane and go to, I don't even know where she goes, Colorado or Wyoming, somewhere in the country, on a ranch. And she celebrates Christmas with her publisher and his son, and his son is supposed to be engaged to somebody else. And the more that he and Samantha talk, the more that they I wouldn't say fall in love. I think it's like a friendship turned into love. So his engagement gets called off. The things that I did not like, I feel like the love triangle was good, and there is a part where she finds his mother's journal in the library, and I feel like those two parts could have carried the story the entire time. The parts that I did not like were every time she wrote about her, like the book that she was working on. She has like a series where there's this female spy, and I forget her name, Sloane Parker. I said the Sloane Parker snippets weren't funny, they were annoying. I mean, she just kept like entwining the fictional story that she was writing with like Samantha's character and being like, oh, Sloane Parker would think this, Sloane Parker, like no one cares. I want to know about the actual character, not a character of a character, or a book within a book, I guess. There was just too much going on, and it like wasn't consistent enough to make sense. It just felt very scattered, and like there were too many different themes going throughout the book or too many different attempts, I guess. Oh, that and her parents are traveling. This book was just a no for me. I'm surprised I gave it 2 stars. Her parents were like traveling in a different country, and her mother's like, oh, we're having dinner with the governor of whatever random continent or country. This isn't believable, and it just, again, it felt very fabricated. Nothing felt genuine. It didn't flow well. It was too much of a mess for me, so that's a no thank you. After that, I read So Late in the Day by Claire Keegan. I gave this one 4 stars. I said it packs a punch without doing too much. The commentary is subtle but honest, easy and true. I'll definitely read her work again. So this was about, I forget his name, Cathal. So it's set in Dublin. His name is Cathal. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But he is kind of replaying his past relationship in his head and kind of thinking about the things that not necessarily went wrong, but he seems confused by why his ex ended up leaving, and he seems to be like kind of stuck in a rut as far as relationships. But when you go into, like, at first you feel sorry for him a little bit. You're like, wow, he's really down and out. And then you realize like his commentary towards his ex, just the behavior, it was so not even cringy, just like off-putting, and you're like, do you really not see how you're treating her? Like, do you really? I didn't even like underline like specific passages, which I should have. I think this was a case of his ex was very sure of herself and he is not, and so I think the small subtle ways that he belittles her, or again just the underlying commentary or maybe even lack thereof, I think was just a very interesting perspective as being a male lead character. And yeah, I liked it. It was frustrating to read his side. I mean, it was only in his side. It was frustrating to read, but it was well done, and I would read her stuff again. Of course, my camera is dying and I'm only 10 minutes in. After that was 50 Words for Rain by Asha Lemme. I gave this 5 stars. I loved it. I feel like I've gone into it a little bit. It is a story about Nori, who is a bastard child growing up in Japan. Her mother ends up dropping her at her grandparents' doorstep. Her grandparents are royalty. Her mother was royalty until she had Nori and kind of blew up her marriage and everything else. There's a lot to unpack in this. Her stepbrother comes to live with them after being orphaned. You know, his father passes away. So he goes to live with them, and he sees how Nori's treated. And while he, not necessarily that he understands why she would be treated that way, but he takes away the stigma of her not being a person. Like, she's still a human, even if her mom made a bad decision, if she was born out of some sort of, you know, affair. He's compassionate. He has empathy for her. He still wants to live his life as it should be, but he also wants to make it livable for her. Like, she should be able to roam the house. She shouldn't be locked into a room. She should be able to eat certain things. And so he really helps her in that sense, especially come out of her shell too as she's growing up. And this goes from childhood all the way through adulthood. There is an accident that happens. I don't want to give it away. And then towards the end, she reconnects with her grandmother who is on her deathbed, and there's revelations throughout it. It's just so good. I cannot even put it into words. It's so good. It's so not even heartwarming. It's just moving. It's moving. It's soulful. It's, you know, there were definitely tears at times on how she was treated. Frustration for the character, but the writing was so good, and she did just come out with another book, so I'm excited to read this author again. I think I'll be picking up the other book this weekend because I loved her writing. I finished The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I gave this 3 stars. I said it was frustrating, complex, lacking in some ways. I feel like Esther jumped from a mundane life not knowing what came next and not loving everything around her. You know, feeling stuck, to shock therapy. It was very one or the other, and I think that is a depiction of the society during this time period and how they treated women. So I do understand the writing style and how things flowed, but it was still frustrating. But yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I think nowadays Esther's confusion and kind of uncertainty wouldn't be looked at so negatively. Like, you don't need shock therapy if you're confused after college. I think while reading it, it just didn't, like, the writing style kind of ebbed and flowed and didn't really stay consistent enough for me. And so not only was the plot frustrating, which it's supposed to be, I think, but the writing style I just felt like I meshed with in the beginning and I meshed with it at the end, but like in the middle it was just kind of like not holding my attention and not really, like I said, consistent. But yeah, I can definitely see why this is such a deep dive classic, and just the commentary on women in society, this is well done. After that, I'm trying to finish before my battery dies. I read Christmas in Paris by Anita Hughes, and I gave this one 2 stars. Anita. This had more of a Christmassy vibe. I did appreciate it. There's just so many story holes. That sounded weird. There's so many gaps in the storyline that it's so frustrating to read. And I really wanted to just have that Christmassy vibe, so I did try another one. I did like her Christmas in Vermont book, so I'm not sure why I didn't vibe with these 2. I honestly don't even know which came first, because she has a bunch, like Christmas in New York, Christmas like all over. So I don't know which one came first. This one was better than Christmas at the Ranch, but still not great. This was, I don't even remember their names. Neil and Isabel are supposed to get married, and they call it off. They both agree. It's very weird, very platonic, but it like seems like a friendship that ended. It doesn't really seem like a potential marriage that ended. So she goes to Paris, she gets locked out of her balcony, she throws a shoe over to the guy next door. His name is Alec, and they start to hit it off. There wasn't an issue of too much going on in the story, so that I did appreciate. It just definitely felt unrealistic. It's definitely like a Hallmarky kind of vibe where you're like, okay, that wouldn't happen in real life, but it's entertaining. But some parts were a little bit like forced, and the whole, not to have a spoiler, but like the whole like needing to get married thing, like, you've known each other a week, come on. Like, that part, no thank you. But everything else was not that bad, so I mean, I do recommend that for the holiday season. Again, just take it with a grain of salt, and if you like cheesy stuff, then it's perfect. After that, I finished Burnt Sugar by Avni Doshi. I gave this one 3.5 stars. There was a lot in this, and honestly by the end of it, it kind of gave, what's that movie with Jennifer Lawrence? I think it's called Mother. I'm pretty sure that's it. It gave that kind of vibe at the end, like you're not really sure. I don't know, it was a confusing ending. So Antara is a daughter to a mother-daughter tumultuous relationship. I've gone over this before in previews of the, not previews, but like what it's about in my TBR. They have a really bad relationship, a strained relationship in childhood. She grows up, she has her own relationships. She's trying to take care of her mother, who she, you know, has all these issues with, and nothing is really unpacked. It's very left unsettled. And her mother's sick. She has a fading memory. I think like Alzheimer's. It's not actually described. Doctors really aren't sure what's going on. Not everybody in her family believes her when she's trying to go into detail with them about her mother's situation. She finds herself pregnant. She's married. And then when she has the baby, this is where the confusion kind of comes in at the end. The connection between her and her baby, and then everybody comes over to visit, and her mom starts acting like, well, I think because of her memory, she thinks that that's her baby. She just had the baby, and her daughter's husband is her husband. It's very interesting. I don't know how else to word it. I don't think I can completely wrap my head around it, but it was an interesting ride. There was a lot, I feel like there's a lot left unsaid, so you kind of just, I don't know how to explain it. It's different than what I've read before. It doesn't really go into too much detail about the things that went on in their relationship. It touches on a lot of it. You know, her mom moves to an ashram and leaves her alone with her family, and then now at an older state where she needs help, I think the daughter kind of has a little bit of resentment towards everything. There's a lot to it. I would recommend it, but it definitely has its parts where I'm like, wait a second, should I go back and reread that? After that, it's not dying yet. Let's go. I finished Wreck the Halls by Tessa Bailey. I gave this 3.75. This was a cute read for Christmas time. I definitely did like it. This was about Melody and Beat, who are trying to get their mother's band back together. Melody's mom and Beat's mom were in a rock band, and they broke up because of like a love triangle, and there's a lot more to it, but they end up trying to bring the band back together. If they do it on television, they get a lot of money for it, and Beat needs that because he's being blackmailed by somebody. Like I said, it was entertaining. I think Tessa Bailey is definitely a good rom-com writer. The ending is always a little bit cheesy for me, but I think that's just the rom-com, you know, Christmas time. That's just what it is. But it was definitely well written and just a better vibe than the other two that I had read, so I definitely recommend this. After that, I listened to Still Hung Up on You by Liz Maverick. This was an Audible original or something like that. I gave that 2 stars. That was not, I don't remember anything about it. I just remember hating it the entire time. I lie, take that back. I do remember it. This girl calls a guy about a sweater that she wore at his house 10 years ago maybe, and left it there. They broke up and she left her sweater there. It turns out it was her dad's sweater. Her mom and dad's anniversary is coming up. She's trying to get it back. He's not home. She tries to drive over to his house, and something about a key. Then she tries to break in the back door. I don't fucking know. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. The entire time it's, I'm stuck, and he's on the phone, what, are you okay, should I come help? Like, awful to listen to, literally awful to listen to. And you're probably like, why do you remember so much for a book that you hate so much? It was only like a 2-hour listen, and I dislike it that much. That's hard to do. That's very hard to do. It was awful. Do not listen to that. After that, Much Ado About Nothing by William Shakespeare. It was not my favorite, but I did think it was funnier than some of the other ones that I read. So this was about 2 different couples. One is not expected to get together, Benedict and Beatrice. And Beatrice is known to be upfront, but like brutally honest. She's known to run her mouth. And they don't think that Benedict and her will end up getting together, but they do. And then, what is the other couple? Claudio and Hero? I don't think that's right. They are who everybody expected to get together, My camera's dying, so hold on. Okay, I'm gonna try to do this very, very quickly because I only charged it for like 5 minutes. So let's see. Much Ado About Nothing. I gave that one 3.5 stars. I really did like it. It just wasn't one of my favorites. The storyline was there, but it kind of dropped at the end. But the banter in the beginning was funny and definitely enjoyable. The last one that I read was a Kindle read. It's Holiday Romance, Catherine Walsh. It is on Kindle Unlimited right now. I gave that one 4 stars. I loved this one a lot. They meet once a year when they take their plane ride home from LA to maybe Ireland, I think. And they actually know each other from out of like a friend group. I think her friend like dumped him or something. But it goes over, I think, a 10-year span. Once a year. They keep in touch a little bit through text some years, but it's a once a year meet, and then the friendship turns into something else. There is a flight delay, flight cancellation. They have to kind of find their way around and make it home in time for Christmas. And overall, it was just really good writing. I haven't read her stuff before, but I did read it and then download some of her other stuff that's on Kindle Unlimited right now because it was just so entertaining and really fun to read, and a good Christmas story. So I think that one and Wreck the Halls were definitely like the same kind of vibe. There wasn't, I don't remember if there was a lot of spice. I don't think there was a lot of spice in it as far as romance, but it was definitely enjoyable and a perfect read to end November. I am currently reading John Stamos. He just came out with a memoir, so I have that on loan from the library. I have to bring it back in a couple of days, so I'm trying to hurry up and finish that. And I do have a couple of other books on audio that I want to read along with. So I think after this, I'm going to do a reading vlog of just a couple of different days, couple of different books, and then kind of recap December, what I've read so far, and go from there. I already did my TBR, so I'm kind of just like filming footage as I go, and then I think I'm just gonna mesh everything kind of all together. I really don't know. I've had such a struggle lately trying to figure out what to film, when to bring my camera. I keep forgetting. So I think I'm just gonna do kind of like a montage of a different Christmas, like a couple of different Christmas things. But I have to get my kids off the bus, so I'm gonna go. Have a great weekend. Keep reading. Let me know what you're reading in the comments. Please subscribe to my channel, and as always, I will see you soon. Bye.